today I'm going to talk about my top 9 tips for overcoming social anxiety. These are all techniques that I use to help myself be more confident and brave. These work best when you combine the tips and techniques together, but I will give specific examples for how you can use them individually and what I have used them for. So the first one is you want to tell yourself you're not nervous, you're excited about whatever the thing is. Because scientifically, your body can't tell the difference between being excited and being nervous. So sometimes you feel these sensations in your body and you think, oh no, this means that I'm nervous about this, and then that means I shouldn't do this thing. When really it means that you're actually just excited and you should do it, right? So as an example, I wear these hair clips a lot because of my hair goes in my face if I don't. And the first time I was going to wear them to the gym, I was a little nervous because I'm like, that's not something people wear to the gym. Am I looking too extra to work out, right? Even though I don't necessarily wear them as a fashion statement, it was supposed to be so that the hair's not in my eyes. But then obviously I made them more nicer because someone suggested that I make flower hair clips, right? And I think it looks cute, right? And even if you want to wear something to the gym just because it's stylish, like who even cares? You're allowed to wear whatever you want to wear to the gym, right? So anyways, I say to myself, I'm not nervous. I'm excited about wearing my hair clips to the gym for the first time, right? And it helped me, and then I wore them. Nothing bad happened, so then I've just been wearing them ever since then, right? So as a more anxiety-provoking example, I wanted to help organize a free Palestine protest, but I wasn't going to do this by myself. So I wanted to ask my coworker who has a Palestinian boyfriend if she would help me with it, right? And so before I even had asked her, and I was going to bed at night, to go to work the next morning, I was getting really nervous and I was getting scared. But so then I did a technique of saying, you're not nervous, you're actually excited. And it was actually kind of a spiritual experience for me because it made me think back to all the other times in my life where what if I've just always been excited about things and all this time I just thought that I was really nervous and a nervous person when maybe I'm just like an excited person, So then I used the technique and it helped me. And so then the next day I asked her, and you can look at my other video about my experience with organizing the protest because she ended up dropping out, but I was able to get in touch with the Palestinian girl and do it with her. And then it ended up being, I would say it was an overall positive experience. There was some things that did not go as planned. So you can look at my other video, but also throughout this video when I talk about like the protest and stuff like that, I'm talking about other Free Palestine protests that I went to and used these other techniques for. So the next tip that I think is really good is to thank your anxiety. So we actually have like a bunch of different parts of ourselves living in our head. And so you have a part of you that is just nervous and they're trying to protect you, right? Because if you really think about it, your anxiety is just trying to protect you and is trying to protect you from getting hurt. And it's kind of saying like, oh, you shouldn't do this because somebody else might say something to you and hurt your feelings, right? So instead, it's not really helpful because then you're kind of bullying yourself out of doing things in hopes that you're not going to get hurt from another person saying something to you, right? So I think that's a good tip to do. And I do notice at times when I say to myself, oh, thank you, anxiety, for protecting me and showing me about this danger zone, but I'm choosing to do this and I want to do this anyways. I think it does lessen because if you don't acknowledge your anxiety as like a certain part of you, then it's going to keep getting louder and louder, being like, oh my God, you don't hear me, you're not listening to me. And it's going to keep saying even more crazy things in hopes that you will eventually listen to it and then not do the thing. But if you just say, okay, thank you for protecting me, I hear you, but I still want to do this, I think that it does help. So something I use to thank you anxiety for protecting me one would be when I want to post certain things on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and I get nervous about like, oh my God, what are people going to say about this? And I've also used it for the first time when I went to the gym, because before I went to the gym, I was really nervous to go. And I used it before I went there and on the car ride there. And if you're scared to go to the gym, I have another video about overcoming gym anxiety. Since I would say now I'm pretty confident at the gym and just, doing the exercises I want to do and not being self-conscious about if people are looking at me and making fun of my form and all that stuff. The next tip is asking yourself, what would a confident person do? So as an example, say you're at the gym and say you want to film yourself doing a specific exercise, but you're getting nervous like, oh my God, what are people going to say if I start filming myself in the gym, right? You think to yourself, what would a confident person do? A confident person they would film themselves doing their exercise and they're not going to care, because confident people just do what they want and they just don't care and they're not worrying about what other people are going to think of them, right? So whatever it is that you're nervous about, you just think to yourself, what would a confident person do? And then you realize that they would just do whatever it is that you want to do. And it just makes you realize that it is possible to do what you want to do. And there are people out there that are doing what you're doing now. And it's okay. And they're just being brave. And it's kind of just like channeling that energy of some confident person. And you might even have a specific person in your life that you can think of. Like sometimes I think about my brother because I feel like he doesn't care what other people think of him. And I saw him once. He also makes videos on TikTok, and he made a video, and he was in the store, and he's just talking, being loud in it. So sometimes I think about him and just like, what would he do? And he would just make his videos wherever he is, whoever's around, it doesn't matter. So if you have a specific person in your life that you think is confident, you could think about them. You don't even need to know them. I see some girls that I follow on TikTok. They make videos dancing in public in front of strangers, and it doesn't matter. So I just think, I don't really know their names, but like, what would this person do? This dancer that dances in front of everyone in New York City, what would she do? She would make this dancing video in front of people. So just ask yourself that, and it just makes you realize that it's actually a choice to be confident, and it's a choice to do these things, and it will make you want to do them. So something that's kind of similar to this is asking yourself, how do you wish you were acting? I saw this on Instagram and it really made me think, right? So say you're at the gym, for example, and you want to try a new exercise, but you're getting nervous and scared, and you can just think to yourself, and you're just kind of thinking like, oh my God, I wish I would just do this. Like, what the heck is wrong with me? And then you just ask yourself, how do I wish I was acting? And then you would think, oh, I wish I would just try this new exercise even though I'm scared, right? And then it just makes you realize that it is possible for you to do this, and you can do this. The only thing that is stopping you is you, and it makes you more likely to actually want to do this thing. So that's something that helps me. My next tip is to think to yourself, let them tell you that, insert whatever it is that you're nervous about, right? So say you're scared people are going to think you're a weirdo or that you're annoying, right? Let them tell you that you're a weirdo. Let them tell you that you're annoying. Let them tell you that you're overdressed. Whatever the thing is, a lot of the times, people are not going to say anything to you, especially strangers. They're not going to say anything to you because a lot of people actually do have anxiety and they're nervous also. So they're not going to say something to you as a stranger because that's just too anxiety provoking for them, right? So as an example of this, I was on the train the other day and I wanted to eat a tuna sandwich because that's what I chose to eat, right? And I was getting kind of scared and paranoid that people were going to get mad at me because the tuna sandwich smells on the train. In my opinion, I don't think that tuna smells bad, obviously, because I like tuna, but I know that some people do think that, right? So I think to myself, let them come up to me and tell me, stop eating your sandwich because it smells bad. Let them come up to me and start complaining to me and saying all these crazy things to me about how I'm being disrespectful eating this sandwich on the train, right? And then it makes you kind of put the ball in their court, right? Instead of you making assumptions like, oh my God, people are going to say this, that, and the third about me. And it's like you coming up with these things in your mind. It kind of puts the ball in their court. Like, if you have a problem with me, you need to come up to me and you need to say something to me about it. And like I said, nobody said anything to me, and nobody is going to say anything to you realistically. If you do something like this, maybe in front of family members or friends, whatever it is, they might say something to you because they're comfortable with you. But at the end of the day, they're your family member and they're your friend, so they're probably still going to accept you and want to be your friend and your family member, right? So I think that that's a good tip. Sometimes I made a video about my experience with getting more involved in activism, and I was a little bit nervous about if people were going to call me a white savior and all, or being performative activist. So then I just said to myself, let them tell me that I'm being a white savior. Let them tell me I'm being performative. And then that just didn't happen because I wasn't being like that. So whatever these things that you're thinking of, they're just probably not going to happen, okay? But like I said, it does kind of put the ball in their court because then they have to be the ones to say something to you, and they're just not going to do that. Okay, so this next tip is F these people, okay? So I think sometimes our anxiety, it's because you're too considerate of other people. going back to my example about the train, I was thinking, oh my God, these people are going to get mad at me because my tuna sandwich smells bad. In that moment, I'm kind of being too considerate of other people, and I'm thinking about their needs over my own because I was hungry and I needed to eat something because I was going to the city to go to a protest, and I just didn't have time to eat at my house because I had to use my time going to the store because I need to get black sweatpants because I need to get a blending in outfit because obviously I don't wear black clothes. My sweatpants are bright yellow and all these crazy colors, okay? So I had to use my time to go and get an outfit. I didn't have time to eat. So instead of thinking about the people on the train's feelings, these strangers, I don't even know you, stop thinking about people you don't even know. These strangers, like, who cares about them? You just have to think, F these people, I need to eat, and I'm going to eat my sandwich. And then I wanted to make a video about that, the tech anxiety tip of F these people. I did post it on YouTube and Instagram, right? Before I posted that, I was a little bit scared that people were going to say, like, oh my God, you're being disrespectful, you're a narcissist, all these things. So then I used the other tip that I just told you. Let people tell me that I'm a narcissist. Let people tell me that I'm being disrespectful and I don't care about others, right? If somebody doesn't agree with the statement I just made, it's because they don't have anxiety and they don't understand, Like, if you actually have anxiety, then you will see the point that I'm trying to make and you will realize that it actually is a good tip and it did help people. And nobody really said anything mean about what I said. So as I'm saying again, like, these paranoia that you have, like, it just is not going to happen. Somebody did say, like, was a little disrespectful, the tuna sandwich, but, like, at the end of the day, I don't think it's that disrespectful. I think the worst smelling foods are hard-boiled eggs and yogurt. And I wasn't eating those. I would never eat those things. And that's mainly, like, the only two foods that I'm, like, if someone's eating, I'm like, ew, get away from me. So with the F these people technique, obviously you don't want to be, like, super disrespectful and you don't want to be mean to people. But you want to do this within reason, and for the most part, whatever it is that you want to do, using this technique, like, it's not even being disrespectful. It's just you, like, doing the things that you want to do, right? So these next two anxiety tips only work if you have done exposure therapy, social mishap exposure therapy, or rejection therapy. So exposure therapy is just doing an anxiety-provoking thing on purpose just to, expose yourself to the situation and expose yourself to anxiety-provoking things. The social mishap exposures are taking it a little bit further by doing something that's, like, socially weird and socially abnormal to create a situation that's very anxiety-provoking to show you that it's okay. For example, doing a wall sit in the middle of the grocery store, which I did, like, 2 weeks ago, okay? So some examples of a social mishap exposures that I did would be, like, doing jumping jacks in the store, squatting in the store, doing lunges in the store. Like, these are all things that you're not supposed to do that in a grocery store. Like, you're allowed to do that, right? But who's doing that? Nobody's doing that, right? So when you do the social mishap exposures, then when it comes time to do what you actually want to do, for example, say you want to start filming yourself in the gym, but you're nervous to set up your phone. Or maybe you have been setting up your phone, but now you want to take it to the next level and you want to bring your tripod and whip out a tripod in the gym, right? People do that, and I do see people at the gym with tripods, but it's not something that everyone does, right? So now you can say to yourself, I'm just filming myself in the gym for exposure therapy. I'm using my tripod in the gym for exposure therapy, and it just makes it feel like it's not real and that it's kind of like a game and it's just, like, for fun and it's not that serious. As opposed to as if you've never done any exposure therapy and you just want to start filming yourself or bring out your tripod and just say, I'm doing this, for real to film myself. Like, that's just more anxiety provoking than if you say, like, no, I'm just doing this for social mishap exposure therapy. And as an example of doing this was when I helped organize the protest, I gave a speech at the end and I was getting nervous because I thought that my speech was bad. And my speech was so terrible and everyone was going to make fun of me and think that my speech was the worst speech they've ever heard, right? So I think to myself, I'm giving a terrible speech on purpose for social mishap exposures, and then it makes it not real and it lessens your anxiety and makes it feel like it's just a game, right? So then I gave my speech and I actually wasn't nervous at all. I basically used all of the tips that I said. And then I got compliments on my speech and it ended up being good. And so, it's not really anything to be nervous about. That was just kind of, I guess, me having low self-esteem, right? So if you have low self-esteem and say you maybe want to start posting your artwork online on Instagram, right? You could think to yourself, I'm posting a terrible art online for social mishap exposures, right? Because when you do a social mishap exposure, that's like you purposely doing something silly and ridiculous. And you technically could, for social mishap exposure, I could post like a painting that I purposefully made a bad on purpose just to kind of expose myself to, getting critiqued on my artwork, right? But instead of actually doing that, you post the one that you actually made and then just pretend, I'm just posting this for social mishap exposures, like I did this on bad on purpose, right? Just to overcome the fear of posting it and showing people your art. And then you'll end up getting compliments anyways because it is good and you need to work on building up your confidence, right? So that's a good technique. And then the next one is, say you want to ask somebody something, but you have the opportunity to get rejected. You want to say, well, I'm just doing this for rejection therapy. So I have a whole separate video on the social mishap exposures and a different video on what rejection therapy is. But rejection therapy is basically asking somebody something that you figure that they're going to say no to you so that you get desensitized to being rejected. As an example of this, I went up to somebody in the grocery store with raw chicken and I asked them if they would cook it for me because I don't like the way that I make it. Some random person, and they said no, obviously. Once I asked somebody to give me $100 in the store so that I could bless other people in the store by buying them things, they said no, obviously. What else did I do that was funny? Oh, I saw someone in Dick's Sporting Goods. I asked them if they would be like my personal golf coach. They said no. So all these things, I asked these people like crazy things. I asked this lady at the park if she would help me catch one of the ducks so I could take it home with me as a pet. So after you ask these people these ridiculous things, then when it comes time to asking somebody something that you actually want to do, you can just think to yourself, I'm just doing this as a rejection therapy. And it just kind of, again, makes it feel like it's a game and it's not real. So as an example of this would be, so I'm also a server on the side part-time. So sometimes the manager will take me off the schedule on Saturday. I don't know why she does this. Like, she's done this a bunch of times. So every time I have to ask her to put me back on the schedule. But she always says yes. But like in the very beginning when I first had to ask her this, I was scared to. But if you think to yourself, I'm just doing this for rejection therapy, so then if this person says no to you, like, it's okay and it's not the end of the world, but it just makes you feel more confident to ask them because it makes you feel like it's a game and it's not real. And so you can use this technique for lots of other things. When I was in the summertime, I was living at the beach with these random girls. So when they would go out to the bars and stuff, I would ask them, oh, can I go out with you guys? And I thought of that as a rejection therapy, because obviously they could say no to me and then they ended up saying yes. So that's another technique that I think is good. I just feel like when you do some rejection therapy, then when you want to ask somebody something that's not necessarily a rejection therapy, but you can just tell yourself this is for rejection therapy and it's going to make it feel less real and it's going to lessen your anxiety. So my last tip is for people that are more religious, and the tip is to say to yourself, I am divinely protected by God. But if you're not religious and you don't believe in God, you can also use this tip, but just change it to, I am divinely protected by the universe. I mostly use this technique if I feel unsafe in some way. Like, say you need to walk by yourself somewhere and maybe it's not a safe area or whatever. You could just say to yourself, I am divinely protected by God. And I also used this technique when I went to some of the protests because I feel like for the most part these protests were safe. But you just never know what could happen, And so before I went to it and saw the situation, because every protest is different, sometimes in my mind I get paranoid, like, oh my God, this is going to be so crazy. And like the police are going to go crazy and everything, right? And people are going to get arrested. I use the technique, I'm divinely protected by God. So that just kind of like manifesting and saying to me, like, I'm safe. Like, maybe some people will get arrested at this protest, but it's not going to be me because I'm divinely protected by God, right? And so that technique, it just helps me to feel better and to feel more secure. And then that's kind of like you say it, I'm divinely protected by God, and then you just let it go and you just have to trust and believe that you're safe. So you could say I'm divinely protected by the universe, and this technique, you want to do this as many times as you start to get fears. So say you go to a protest specifically, like I said this maybe 5 times throughout the event. So it's not just like a one and done. You can continue to say this as many times as you need to, as many times as your anxiety comes up. But like, if I also, when any time that I'm driving in the car, I say I'm divinely protected by God, because sometimes I get nervous about driving, and that's just a good thing to say, you know. It makes you feel safe. I actually got the technique that I'm divinely protected by God from, I think it was like The Game of Life and How to Play It. That's kind of like a religious manifesting book. And that's one of the techniques she did. I'm divinely protected by God. And her example was like, I think she was traveling somewhere and she was saying it when she was traveling, but then when she came back to the USA, like I think she went to a different country, when she came back to the USA, like she stopped saying it, and then kind of like bad things started happening. So it's kind of something that you need to say all the time. So you could just say this every day. Like, it doesn't really necessarily need to be in an anxiety provoking situation, but that's why I like to say it when I'm in the car driving. And then the one time when I didn't say it, that's when I got into a little accident because I hydroplaned in the rain, and that's never happened to me before. And I don't really drive that much, but when I do, I just like to say it, and it just makes me feel more safe and secure. Thank you so much for listening. Please like and comment if this video was helpful for you, and comment any other anxiety tips that you have in the comments, and also any questions you have, and if you have any other video suggestions that you want to hear me making. Thanks, bye!